Black Mirror has always been hit or miss, and more often the latter. I often see the creators going back and mining the same material, but the first episode of the 7th season, Common People, was singularly bleak, and I want to explore why exactly this episode is so unremittingly ominous. Now, there's been a lot of commentary on this episode out there, but I want to specifically talk about what this episode gets right about birth rates. And be warned, I will spoil the episode, and I strongly recommend you give it a watch before this video. Mike and Amanda are a childless couple, very much in love. Mike works as a welder and Amanda as a teacher. They live a life that can be characterized as ordinary, and they are trying to have a child. Amanda has been having recurring headaches though, and one day, in the middle of teaching class, she passes out and falls into a coma. Mike is informed that Amanda has a brain tumor and will remain in a coma indefinitely. The doctor puts Mike in touch with Rivermind, a company that offers to extract the tumor free of cost, on the condition that they will make a backup of the affected part of her brain, store the backup on their servers, and transmit cognitive functions to her brain continuously. And they will do all of this for the price of $300 a month. Mike consents, and the surgery is a success, and Amanda is back to normal. Let's say that after paying for all your expenses every month, you have $300 left. Now, most people will spend this money frivolously, like buying fancy clothes or overpriced shoes or dining out.
So I guess I'll just give you some money and you can give me these shoes and...
If you are smart, you'll save this $300, invest it, and let your wealth grow. $300 doesn't seem like a lot, but it could mean the difference between having a small fortune or being homeless at retirement. Now, this is the value you have left after existing. Let's call it surplus value. I'm going to be using this term often, but please note I'm not using this term in the Marxist sense. It is simply a term I'm giving to the money left over after paying for basic necessities. Money left over after paying to exist. This surplus value allows you freedom. You can spend it any way you want with little to no restrictions. You could decide to spend it now or later. A lot of people would rely on the surplus to do things like buy a house or have children. This surplus represents your future. But like vultures circling a delicious carcass, companies have their eyes on this money. That delicious carcass is you, by the way. See, they want this money and they want to seize it before you can even choose to part with it. So you have $300, well, now you can finance an unnecessarily large truck for that sum. And now you'll pay this amount to the car finance company every month, reducing your surplus to zero. Streaming services will lay claim to this money. You make a single choice to sign up, but then the money will automatically be taken from your account until you deliberately decide to cancel. Amazon has a reorder feature where you don't even have to actively order, and you can surrender any agency to look for a different product the next time. And if you really hate money, you can get a subscription to candles. Yes, candles. Corporations want to relieve you of your freedom to make choices, because every time you make a choice, there's a possibility you may choose to do nothing. Now, buying large trucks and paying for streaming services and candle subscriptions might seem unnecessary, but there are things in life we absolutely need. Housing and healthcare come to mind. Imagine a nightmare scenario where you're saving $300 a month, but then one day your rent goes up $300 a month. You will then be in a situation where you're just working so you can keep on surviving, so you can keep on working, so you can keep on surviving. You'll have zero surplus value, zero freedom, zero agency. I saw some commentary online saying that it was weird that the couple was hard-pressed to come up with $300 a month, and yet seemed to live in a decent house and had a dual income. But I think that misses the point. The $300 is a placeholder. It could be $600 or $3,000 for all that it matters. The point is, they simply do not have the money. Furthermore, it's a commentary on how even dual income households could be living paycheck to paycheck, which is not exactly a dystopian hypothetical at this point. In any case, the good times do not last for our couple. Things were going well for Mike and Amanda, although Mike picks up extra shifts and overtime to pay for that additional $300, until Amanda starts to give ad reads. In the middle of conversations, Amanda, without her knowledge, starts to read ads for products due to, I assume, enshittification.
Whole grain chunks covered in golden Tupelo honey. Families that stay together bask in the glow of Christ's heart. There's trap lube, available in 6 flavors. Try Manville erectile dysfunction gel. Just $200 now at Foot Locker.
As a teacher, this is unacceptable, and the couple begrudgingly upgrade to the ad-free version, which costs them $800 a month in a bid to keep Amanda's job. Amanda needing the premium ad-free version is kind of like having to take out a car loan because you need to drive to work. All of a sudden, your entire income is contingent on whether or not you can make the car payment. And let's not forget rent. Rent is a subscription fee for life, and the first 18 years is the free trial. And if you have a chronic medical condition, for example, diabetes, and you live in a lawless hellscape like the United States, you might have to fork over hundreds of dollars just to keep on living. And if you have zero surplus at the end of each month, meaning you live paycheck to paycheck, then you'll have to pick up additional shifts or take on a side gig to pay for that increased rent or medication costs. Even if you get a raise, at some point down the road, your rent or other subscription prices or non-negotiable expenses could increase, so your surplus could go back down to zero. This is why surplus value is so vital. It provides a stability and security. And when people feel secure, they're more likely to have children. Not always, of course, but the connection between financial precarity and declining birth rates is clear. Without surplus value, short is the road from subsistence to subsidence. And this is something we clearly see in the episode. Mike ceases to have a life and takes on an increasing amount of work. As Rivermind extracts all their surplus value, Mike and Amanda cease to be people and become value-generating units for Rivermind. Make no mistake, that is what we are to corporations. Stores of value that must be strip-mined.
What are people?
Right?
What are people? They're economic units.
Units that convert labor into money, which is then hoovered up by the companies before we can even choose to part with it consciously. Companies compete to have dibs on your money, especially with buy now, pay later schemes where they can continue to extract a stream of income from what would otherwise have been a one-off transaction. Mike even ends up performing increasingly degrading acts on trash streaming sites to supplement his income without Amanda's knowledge. In the final scenes of the episode, we see Mike and Amanda as desiccated husks of their former selves. The abandonment of their plans of having children is symbolized by them selling their crib for a few dollars. Their dreams, once deferred, are now dead. Even the young couple who purchased the crib is not having kids, they simply want to burn it for a music video, suggesting that parenthood is not something even the young aspire to anymore. Watching this, I could not help but draw the connection between declining birth rates and companies sucking up all the value. There is no value left on propagating another generation. This is the final generation, figuratively speaking.
Don't make us use the baby money.
There's still baby money?
Let's not use it, darling, because if we use it, then that's it. That's it.
Even their physical bodies are stores of value to be raided. Amanda loses her autonomy and sense of self when she does ad reads, just as Mike loses figurative and literal pieces of himself on dumb dummies, trading his dignity and body for money right up until his final tragic act. We can see people monetizing their bodies for sensation and outrage even today, whether it's OnlyFans or outrage content. There is also a parallel to the opioid epidemic, where we see that Amanda can, at a high cost for a few hours or minutes, access the highest tier of Rivermind, the Lux version, where she's able to have full control of her attributes like pleasure, skills, serenity, etc. The couple decide to maximize Amanda's pleasure for 12 hours as it is their anniversary, and the subsequent low she feels once the 12 hours of maximum pleasure wears off is not dissimilar to the low one might feel after a drug high. The half a day of bliss Amanda experiences appears artificial and exaggerated to Mike, and he is not able to connect with Amanda while she is being consumed by synthetic ecstasy. Amanda even resembles an addict by the end, sleeping for more than half her day, so the company can harvest her processing power. This is not unlike how companies harvest our data. We knowingly or unknowingly give our data to companies so it enables them to better exploit us. We give companies knowledge of ourselves, of our identities. And it parallels how Purdue sold its opioids to people without concern for whether or not these people would continue to exist as a result of consuming their product. To a lesser extent, fast food companies do this too. Human beings are not people to be fed, but receptacles for their products. Products designed to be hyper-palatable yet bereft of sustenance, keeping people simultaneously both overfed but somehow undernourished. A McDonald's burger is thus less food than it is an ephemeral sensation.
Oh, that's pungent. That is just...
Fucking amazing.
One can also draw a parallel between the extra sleep that Amanda needs and the time we have left after work and commute. Often that time between the end of one workday and the start of another can be just a precious few hours, hours when we are too exhausted and have no appetite for anything but sensation. We are primed to crave content devoid of content. We just want to be tranquilized. In the conclusion of this episode, Mike purchases 30 minutes of Rivermind Lux for Amanda. This is all he can afford. Amanda, after maxing out her serenity, accepts that death is preferable to her current state. Mike and Amanda accept their fate. After Mike smothers Amanda in an act of mercy, we see him with a box cutter about to end things on Dumb Dummies, thus monetizing even his death. They say you will own nothing and be happy, but I think a more apt statement is that you will be able to own nothing, not even yourself, and you better be happy. I think what is upsetting about this episode is that the dystopia this episode depicts is not far off. In many ways, it is already here. The casting of capable comedic actors only brings the tragedy into sharper relief in the second half of the episode. I will leave you with this. If you do not want the tentacles of the capitalists to forever latch onto your wallets and siphon away your freedoms, then save your money. And like and subscribe. Alright guys, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Cheers.